Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm coming to you this evening with a DIY project. If you recall, in my last haul video, I purchased this jewelry box and my intentions were to upcycle it because it's not in that great a shape. So that is the DIY that I am going to do for you guys tonight, and I hope you enjoy it. Let me just start by saying that what you will need if you want to do a similar project is I like to use hand wipes to wipe the surface down to start with. For a large project like a table or something like that, you would want to use nice hot soapy water and wash everything really well and let it dry. So this is, you know, a smaller scale project. So I'm just going to use these wipes here, and I'm going to start by wiping everything down. And I actually opened up all the drawers and looked inside, and ooh, it's pretty grody. So I'm going to have to actually pull my vacuum cleaner out and vacuum out all the drawers and the inners because it's gross. It looks like it's like full of cat hair, and I don't know. It's just nasty. So after I'm going to open all the doors, make sure I get all the inside wiped down, and yeah, because you don't really want any dirt or oils or anything on the wood that will stop the paint from adhering. So that's why it's a good idea to wipe everything down really well. Anything that's going to have paint put on it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wipe all this down, and then I'll be back. Okay guys, so I got it all wiped down and everything, and as I was doing that, I had a little issue. This broke off the back, but you know what? That's an easy fix. I'm just going to put a little bit of wood glue and clamp it, and we'll be good as new. So that's no big deal. And I also vacuumed everything out. So I'm trying to find an angle, how to put this camera so that you guys can see what I'm doing. So I don't know if I'm going to like this or not. I'm not sure. But it is what it is, and I'll figure it out. Okay, so now the next step in doing a project like this is to take all of your hardware off. I hate when people try to paint around the hardware. It looks like crap, and actually the people that I bought my house from, they didn't even bother trying to paint around the hardware. They just painted over all of the hardware on the kitchen cupboards. So I had to take all of the hinges off and soak them in, what was it, mineral spirits or something, to get all of the paint off, like 3 layers worth. You know, it makes no sense to me. All right, rant is done. So I have a small screwdriver here, and I am going to go through and I am going to take all of the drawer pulls off. There's the back again. And then back here, as you can see, I have all of these hinges that I'm going to have to remove. These hinges are for the side doors, okay? And then these hinges are for the top. So I will also take all of those off. Now, the pulls here do
Correction,
not come off.
they do come off.
I am going to have to paint around those with a smaller paintbrush so that I don't get paint all over them. So, I don't think you want to sit here and watch me unscrew all of the all of the hardware. So, I will get that done and then I'll be back. Okay, guys. So, I have taken all of the hinges and the drawer pulls off of the jewelry box, and this is my tip for you. Anytime you are taking hardware off of an item, be sure to get little containers to keep the hardware and all the screws all together so you don't lose one and you're running around, you know, trying to find it. So that is my little tip for you. And that's quite a bit of hardware and quite a lot of screws. So it took me a little bit, and I have carpal tunnel now. Anyway, so now what I normally will do is I will check the item over and make sure that there aren't any areas that need any sanding. This jewelry box does have some rough areas. So what I like to do is just take a fine grit sandpaper, like maybe, you know, 400 grit, 300 grit, and just feel around. And if you, and you can usually tell too on wood if there's any rough areas, because you'll find like little fuzzies sticking out of them, little fuzz balls, hair and stuff that will like get stuck because it's rough. And just go through and see, like right here, there's a little rough area, and just give it a light sand just to get rid of it. Yeah. I know there was a couple of these drawers that had some rough spots. I should have actually put them aside so I remembered which ones. This one's got a little area here. These are the doors, the side doors that I took off. And they're not too bad. This is the top with the mirror. And like I said, I just kind of feel around and make sure that there aren't any rough areas. On the inside here, it feels a little rough. Oh, I forgot to vacuum the inside of this out. I'll have to do that after it's done. Yeah, not bad, not bad. Just a light little sand. And then here is the actual rest of the jewelry box with everything taken off. So I just want to make sure the back here, I'll show you, is a real thin, like a plywood. You can see it's really thin. And it's a little bit rough on the edges, so I'm going to go ahead and just give that a little sand. Just a real light sand. This is really a coarse grit sandpaper. But I couldn't find my finer grit, so I'm trying to be kind of careful because it's pretty coarse. Okay. Just a few, look on the front here. All right, so after you get done doing your sanding, if any, then you just want to get another wipe or a damp cloth and just get all the dust off of it, because you don't want to have any of that stuck in your paint. This is still kind of rough, but we'll see what happens after I put the paint on there. Because actually, once we get our paint on and let it dry, we're going to take our sandpaper again, and that's how we're going to distress it to make it look kind of aged. So we don't have to be real particular about that, unless of course you don't like distressed the distressed look. Then you would want to go through and sand everything really well, then wipe it down, and then put your paint on. So I'm just gonna wipe off the ones that we sanded a bit, because we had already wiped these off before. A lot of times, the reason I like to wipe it off first, sand, and then wipe it again is because a lot of times, especially if the item is dirty, you really can't see if it needs any sanding, you know, if there's so much dirt. So that's why I like to wipe it off first, so that I could get a better look, and then go from there. So all right, I didn't really have to do too much on this door, so I think we're good to go there. All right, now we're ready to put a coat of paint. My paint of choice is chalk paint, and the reason that I really like chalk paint is because you don't have to, for instance, say you have a table and it has varnish on it. You do not have to pull out the stripper and the gloves and the steel wool and the scraper, because chalk paint will cover anything, basically. Sometimes you may have to give just a little light sand if it's got like polyurethane on it and it's really a slick surface. Then you'll want to give it a little bit of a sanding so that the paint has something to grab onto. But for this jewelry box, it doesn't have all that much of a finish on it, so we don't really need to go through that process. All right. Now, my favorite chalk paint that I like to use is, you buy it at Walmart. It's called Waverly. And this particular color is called Plaster. And it's like an antique white color. And I love it. And I also bought another Waverly product, which is a wax. Now, normally when you use chalk paint, after it dries and has time to cure, then you're going to want to go over it with wax. It's a wax that's made by the same company, and you want to put a coat of wax on it to protect it. However, they also make an antique wax, an antiquing wax. So it's a clear wax with some color added to it. So when you put it on, it looks like your item has been antiqued. So I'm also going to use that on this jewelry box. So, tip number 1 with the Waverly chalk paint. It's pretty thick. So I like to water it down a little bit especially for the first coat. So I didn't have much in here, so I just added the water right in here. But normally what I do is I will pour some of the chalk paint into another container and then add my and do it that way. But like I said, since I didn't have a whole lot left in here, I just added it right into the jar. And believe me, chalk paint goes a long way. I knew I was going to get it all over me because I shook it. All right, so let me just pull you down here a little bit so you can see what I'm doing. All right. Now, I purchased these chalk paint brushes. I think I got them on either eBay or Amazon. I really like these brushes because they do hold quite a bit of paint. A lot of people like to use the foam brushes, and I don't like them because to me the foam absorbs a lot of paint and it stays in the foam. So to me, you're wasting a lot of paint. There's more paint that stays in the foam than what goes on your item. So I steer away from the foam brushes. I really don't care for them, but that's just my opinion. So I'm going to, let me get my little stick out here and just stir this up a little bit. All right. So all I'm going to do is just dip into here and I'm just going to start painting myself. I have it everywhere. Like I said, usually I like to do around the edges first. I'll hold it this way. So you can see I'm just doing along the edges, making sure that I get into all the crevices there. And then I move on to the top. And I try to just go in, you know, up and down, up and down. Because you don't want like lots of brush strokes in there. Let me put this down, it'd be easier. And then I'm just gonna keep going. Now, like I said, chalk paint goes a long way. You can do probably several pieces with one jar of chalk paint. It's kind of hard because this is sliding away from me while I'm trying to paint it. Okay, so there's the top part. Now I'm not going to paint the sides and the back part of these drawers. I'm just going to do the front and this the top portions here. Okay, so let me get a little bit of paint on here. Whoop. And I'll do the top first. Then I'll come over here and do the sides. Let's see. Try not to get any on the velvet that's on the inside. Careful as I may be, it never fails. I usually get it on there. All right, and now, and I still got it on the sides. So you know what, if you wanted to, you could paint the sides, but I don't know. I probably will because I have OCD. So anyway, I'm going to do this front part. Go along the edges here. See over here, down here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait till this dries and then I'll go on and do the sides and the back part. right, so let's try to come up here so you guys can see what I'm doing. This is by no means going to be perfect. That's why it's called a DIY, because you're doing it yourself. If you want it done professionally, then you can pay somebody. I don't have money like that, so I do it myself whenever I can. And you know what? And I enjoy it. And it's very fulfilling to see the finished product. So it's really, I'll tell you, chalk paint has made redoing furniture and things like that so much easier. Oh my word. Like, I have no qualms about redoing a table or a chair or a desk at all using chalk paint, because it just cuts the time down like in half. It's awesome. And you know what? It doesn't take long to dry either. Like this stuff, by the time I finish painting all these pieces, the first piece that I did will be dry and it'll be ready for a second coat. So I don't think you need to sit and watch me paint all these pieces. So let me get all these painted. I'll let them dry and then I'll come back. Okay guys, I'm still here. So I got one full coat on all the pieces, and I have just put a second coat on the drawers, the fronts of the drawers and the tops. And I did go ahead and paint the sides and the backs, as you can see. So, as you can see, one coat, really, I mean, if you're going for that weathered look, one coat would be like cool. But I'm definitely going to put a second coat on everything. And then once it dries, I'm going to see, you know, what it looks like. So let me go back and finish doing the second coat on the rest of the pieces, and then I'll be back. Okay guys, so I got 2 coats on this jewelry box, and so now it's just a matter of, I'm going to let it dry overnight. I will put the 3rd coat on and let that dry completely. Once everything is good and dry, I'll be back to show you how to distress, put the wax on, and put all our hardware back on. And I have to fix the drawer. So this is going to be a 2-part video. So second half will be finishing up everything. All right, I'll be back.